What do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
You might think that getting into the IT field is impossible without a computer science degree, but Tech Coach Ralph is here to prove you wrong. Get ready for some jaw-dropping revelations on how to break into this lucrative industry. Listen up, tech enthusiasts! Are you ready to break through into the IT field, but feel like you need a computer science degree to make it happen? Think again! Tech Coach Ralph has some exclusive, mind-blowing secrets to share with you. Get ready to be blown away by his jaw-dropping revelations on how to break into the tech industry without a computer science degree. So get your notepad ready, because Tech Coach Ralph is going to change your life forever. Buckle up, because you're about to embark on a journey to success in the IT field.
It's time!
Welcome back to another Tuesday night. Today is Tuesday, October 24th, 2023. And welcome back to another Q&A show. I am so happy to have you here. I was so disappointed on Sunday that the internet was acting up, unable to do Terraform stuff. But I think I found a solution. Maybe not the greatest solution, but I think I found something that will that's going to help us get through that in the future. Might not be the best solution, but it's something. So I will, if the stream starts to cut off, I will be able to monitor that and see if that solution actually worked. But we'll see. And the thing is about being in QA, being in tech, and even working in the video industry. I work in the video streaming industry, so I am learning a lot more about video streaming and about the different technologies behind it, how it works, why it works, and all that cool stuff. So I'm able to like the issues that I end up having here. I'm able to understand them better. And the thing is, right, being in QA, it makes you super OCD to everything working perfectly. And when something does not work the way that you want it to work, you just, for me at least, I'm like, you know what, this really sucks. I'm just going to call it a day. But we should be good today. Even if let's say the internet does start to act up, we might get some buffering, but my hope and my goal is the stream does not cut off, and then we're able to recover. But we'll see what happens. We shall see what happens. But we are going to move on. All right. So let's start our show, and let's get into our agenda. So first and foremost, I want to say thank you to all the newest subscribers. You guys are absolutely amazing. I am so happy to have you guys here. It is my pleasure, my joy to be able to share with you, different things about the tech industry. So hopefully that I am able to add tons and tons of value to you. All right. And another thing, shout out to the tech barbarians, those who are in the Tech Coach Ralph Patreon, who are putting in the hard work every single day to level up, to get better, to advance their careers, whether they are going for QA, web development, UX, UI, data engineering, video editing, whatever the case may be. They are putting in the hard work, leveling up every single day. All right. So shout out to the tech barbarians. All right, let's get into our live show schedule. And then after we finish with the show schedule, I want to mention what I wanted to mention at the beginning of Sunday's show, but couldn't get that far. But I want to mention about the cybersecurity panel that we had this past weekend on this past Saturday. So let's do the live show schedule first and the pre-recorded show content schedule, and then we'll get into that. Right. So our live shows. When do we go live? We supposed to. We're supposed to go live on Sundays at 2:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for software explorations. We had trouble this past weekend and 2 weeks ago, but I think I'm figuring that out. So we are going to keep an eye on that. But we are working through Terraform. I am taking a Terraform class. Terraform is infrastructure as code. Taking a Terraform class on Udemy, and as I work through it, I'm gonna do the projects on Sundays, with you, so you can learn Terraform with me, and I can explain what I'm learning. I believe that you haven't truly learned something until you can explain it and demonstrate it. So that's what I am doing on Sundays. Terraform, learn with me, and we are going to pick that back up this coming Sunday. All right. So then we have our Tuesday nights, our Q&A sessions. And guess what? On the Q&A sessions, I am going to make it available that you can call in, and I will allocate 5 minutes per caller. And you can ask me a question. The link is in the description, and I will put it in the chat as well. I will even pin it to the top of the chat. But I will put the link in the chat so you can call in. And if you have a question, you can ask me, and then we can have a conversation, right? But I'm gonna try to allocate 5 minutes so we can get to more questions, and if there's any other callers, you can get to those callers as well. So that will be the plan. All right. And then we have on Thursday nights, we have more software explorations. This coming Thursday, I plan on trying out Cypress. I am yet to actually use Cypress for automation. I have one of my tech barbarians who are working on a freelance project using Cypress, and I've seen the code, but I have not. I have never used Cypress on my own. So we are going to get into Cypress because, to me, pretty much all the automation tools have the same premise. They might be in different languages. They might have different syntaxes. They might have some different features, but at the end of the day, they are all the same. So I'm like, I already sampled out Playwright. I still got to sample out Playwright in Python, which maybe I'll do that in one of these upcoming Thursday nights. But why not get Cypress on the resume? Because get familiar with it, and get familiar with it enough that it can go on your resume, so that if you need to apply for a job that uses Cypress, you can do that. If you need to, let's say you need to introduce some type of automation at your job, but maybe Selenium isn't the best case for all the scenarios. So maybe you can introduce some tests in Cypress, and you can have some tests running in Cypress. You can have some tests running in Selenium. You can have some tests running in Python. Who knows, right? Like, you are the engineer, you put it together. So what we're gonna do, we're going to explore Cypress this coming Thursday night. It might go for a couple of Thursday nights. Well, who knows, right? But we're going to pick a site, and we're going to struggle stream our way through figuring out Cypress, because it is a QA automation tool, and we are going to use it, get familiar with it, add it to our resume so we can continue to level up. All right. Now, let's get into our pre-recorded content. So, when do we drop pre-recorded content? If you said every day, you would be entirely correct. But I have specific set of pre-recorded content that I like to drop, right? So on Sundays, not Sundays. All right, so these all come out at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Mondays, we have candid conversations where I have conversations with you about things that I've seen. It could be bad advice that I see on LinkedIn or on Reddit. Who knows, right? Or it can be some interview experiences that I've had that I want to share with you. Who knows, right? We just have candid conversations, and because it's pre-recorded and it is premiered, I try the best that I can to enjoy the premiere with you in the chat. So I'm available to talk to you in the chat, giving you my thoughts and feedback and everything like that, right? So, because when you're doing the live streams, it's just about impossible to be active in the chat. But I like to interact with you in whatever way possible. So, during these pre-recorded content release, when I premiere them, I like to try to interact with you a little bit. All right. So Mondays, candid conversations. Wednesdays, software explorations, concept and overviews. This coming Wednesday, tomorrow, I will be dropping part 1 of Docker. Um, I I really appreciate using Docker. I love using Docker. It is so useful, and I want to share with you part 1 of understanding Docker. See, like, so you can have a good idea what it is and get familiar with it, so you can see the great value and benefit that it will add to your life. All right. So Wednesdays, software explorations, concept and overviews, and Fridays we have the Bug Bite, where we review different bugs, vulnerabilities, things that affected companies and how it affected their customers, and whether it's the money or the security of customers, who knows what it might be. This coming Friday, we are going to be talking about T-Mobile's vulnerabilities. They had two major ones this year. One, it could seem not so major, but when you get into the details, it's pretty major. So, and trust me, I'm a T-Mobile customer. I love T-Mobile, right? But they gotta be held. They gotta be held accountable. They gotta be brought to the front of the congregation. So we are going to be exploring T-Mobile on this Friday's episode of the Bug Bite. All right, and then throughout the week, I am dropping the, I clip up the questions from the Tuesday night shows, the Q&A sessions, and so because maybe you can't sit here for a whole 2.5 hours listening to all these questions. Maybe you only care about one of those questions, right? So I clip it up for you, and you can take it in 5 to 10 minute intervals, and you get that answer for the question that you needed, and you are good to go on your way. You might be busy, maybe you're studying, whatever the case may be. All right. So those come out on Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. And leave me a comment if you have any questions on those, and I will make sure I get back to you. All right. Been seeing a lot of engagement, so it is amazing. Now, if you haven't done so yet, right? If the information that I just finished giving you, if you find that valuable and you want to hear more, you want to know when these come out, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you can know every time that we go live, or when we drop new content, right? And you can get notified, and you can tune in, and you can interact with me. All right? So, subscribe to the channel and like the video, share the video with somebody who'll find it useful, because why would you keep all this amazing information to yourself? Right? Share it. Share the information. Share the wealth. All right? Right there. Share the wealth. All right? So, what's next? All right. So, what we are going to do now, I want to touch briefly on the cybersecurity panel that we had over the weekend. All right. So on Saturday night, I mainly moderated. I didn't necessarily host it, but I moderated a Welcome to Cybersecurity panel, which was, I would say, hosted by Nico Sox Smith, and he brought up some wonderful colleagues and friends of his, Ashley and Marcus, and we went through a bunch of questions about cybersecurity, what it is, how to get into it, what are some non-coding cybersecurity jobs that are available, different things that you can do. Like in cybersecurity, we touched on diversity in cybersecurity, all that good stuff, right? So I would say definitely, and it like I streamed it also to my channel, so you can get it from there. And I would say, in that video towards the end, the way to connect with the panelists is it's on the video. So check that out. Get because make contacts. If you're interested in cybersecurity, make contacts. All right, and leverage that. Right. So it was a really fun panel. I had a great time, and I am definitely looking forward to do it again. We are going to figure it out, and when we do it again, you will be the first to know. And I would love for you to tune in and have be part of the conversation. Like, we still have a bunch of questions from that show that we didn't get to that we will find a way to answer. So stick around for that. I will make the announcements of how we will be addressing that once we figure that out. All right. So we still have to go and debrief and do all that good stuff. All right. So speaking of leveraging the contacts, leveraging the resources, before we get into our questions, I wanted to talk to you about leverage, right? And what do I mean by leverage? Do I mean leverage? Give me a second. All right. Speaking of leverage, do I mean leverage as in, having something on someone or having, dirt on someone? No, not at all. Right. When I say leverage, right? What do I mean by having leverage? So when we'll do it as a story, right? When I was at a previous company, um, there was a like a lawsuit that like the company was getting sued for something, right? And what happened was QA was never really involved in the whole testing process, right? Of the whatever fix that they were trying to make to be in compliance with the lawsuit that they ended up eventually losing. But QA wasn't involved. So what happened was towards like the very end of them trying to meet the deadline, right? They brought QA into the process, and what ended up happening was so if I put, let's try to paint a picture here, right? So the compliance had to be done by like Sunday at midnight or something like that, right? Something to that extent. And now QA gets involved in this whole process around Thursday. And um but it's like there's no sense of urgency on that Thursday. But once we find out the context of what we have to test, then we start finding a bunch of things not working the way that they were expecting as development, believe it or not. The way that development was expecting it to work, we were finding out a bunch of situations where it wasn't working that way, right? So what ended up happening then, right? So QA gets brought in, and we're starting to test hundreds of websites to make sure that we're in compliance, and we're finding a bunch of issues. So now I'm working with the QA manager, QA director, with the manual QA manager, with and I'm working with my team. Like I'm like, all right, we need to find a way to automate this stuff, right? So I start developing a way to be able to test these websites in mass. One script that can test it because all the websites they had to have the same functionality, right? So um, in in building out these scripts for this, we ended up working pretty much like 3 nights straight, right? Would go home for like a couple of hours. We had shifts, like because they didn't plan for this at all. Like, so we just didn't expect this to become such a thing, right? Which a thing that ended up lasting us for like a few months, where we had to build a process about over validating it and all that stuff, right? But the point is, what ended up happening is for the initial push, the initial surge, I started creating the scripts. I got my team like, all right, this is what we need to do while the other teams, the manual team, is testing these things out, letting us know what's not working as it should be, reporting it to the developers and everything like that. We're going to start building tests to be able to validate this on a regular basis, right? And what ends up happening in that surge, we like I was there for maybe 18 hours a day, like throughout the weekend, right? And the last day of it, I pretty much spent the entire day in the office, working through it. Maybe ran home to take a shower, eat something, come back. I mean, they provided us food and all that good stuff, right? But Now, let's get to the leverage part of it. What do I mean by leverage? So, by leverage, what I mean is it's not I leverage the opportunity because was it necessarily like did I have to be there for all those hours and stuff like that? No, not really. But the leverage is I leverage the opportunity for my resume. We got a pay incentive for being part of it, overtime and stuff like that. Even being salaried employees, we still were able to track the hours and get paid for that. But the most important thing is being able to leverage this for your resume. And how do I leverage it for my resume? So if you have like if you're part of the Patreon, if you've watched any of my resume videos on how to add the value that you brought to a role on your resume, right? And then how to leverage that in an interview when they ask you the question, "Oh, tell me about a tough situation that you have experienced in the workplace, right? At a company, a difficult situation." I'm like, "Oh, well, there was a time that we're dealing with a lawsuit, and I had to do this, that, and that, and I had to lead the team, and then for a whole 6 months afterwards, had to for a whole 6 months afterwards, had to run these tests on a regular basis, organize it, getting tested, lead the way on automation for it, make sure all these things were happening." I leveraged that as an opportunity to level up in my career, have talking points for resumes, have talking points on my resume for my accomplishments, right? So while it's helping the company, right? Going above and beyond what my actual, job duties, job descriptions, all that stuff is, I'm leveraging that so I can use that to in my back pocket. So now that I'm ready to go to another company, right? I'm like, okay, these are the things I'm going to talk about how I add value, how I added value to my previous company, and the type of value that that I can add to your company, right? I am, I'm ready for whatever. I'm battle tested. I'm ready for war. Whatever the troubles are, I'm in, and I'm going to make the most of it, right? Um, a lot of times we have this mentality of I want to make a lot of money, but I don't want to work for it, right? Um, I want to level up, but I also want it to be easy. And if it was easy, then it wouldn't be leveling up, right? If you play video games, as you go up in levels, right? It gets harder. It gets more challenging. So I put myself in these challenging situations so I could succeed. I could have the pressure. And then I can have talking points about how I overcame these challenges that the company faced, right? How did I overcome these challenges? So that's what I mean by leverage. You know, you need to seize these opportunities so that you can be able to grow and jump to wherever you want to go, right? And that's just one of the situations that I was in where I was able to leverage a situation which I'm sure helped me get better jobs in the future. So what I'm planning to do is at the beginning of these Q&A shows, uh talk about some of this stuff so that you can have an idea of how to seize these opportunities so that you can grow as well and you can put yourself in a better position to leverage, right? To leverage whatever situation that you find yourself in because you'll do some crazy stuff, sometimes some stupid things, right? Sometimes some stupid things because you are trying to, you know, level up, but maybe not in the best type of way. But if you can focus that energy into bettering yourself and getting better career opportunities, then why not? Right? Sometimes we have this idea, this thing, oh, it's not my job. Well, I after doing my job, I also go and look for opportunities that are outside my job so that I can so that I can add more value, right? Add more value and in turn solidify my usefulness in the role that I'm in, right? So, and I wasn't going to do this, but just read this one thing for you real quick. So, feedback that I got, right? Just recently said, hat tip to me, yours truly, Tech Coach Ralph, for being an incredible QA and dramatically improving the team's testing processes. I've never felt more confident in our automation suite thanks to all of his great ideas and contributions to it. On top of that, he's always eager to get his hands dirty with non QA work or take on new responsibilities like helping with interviews, sharing his time across two squads or two teams, and joining the operations team, right? To the operations team to, when we have like pager duty alerts, when things are going crazy and we have things that are going down, try to help get that back up, right? So, and the key word that I want to emphasize on is non QA tasks, right? Because those non QA stuff that I do, they're also non engineering stuff, but we rally together and we get it to work. And I want to like, if I can help alleviate some work sometimes for the other departments, other teams, so that they can get some stuff done. If I have the capacity, then I'm all for it because I'm part of the team, and I want to win, and I want to see our team win. And then that's also leverage, right? That's also leverage that helps me in the future. I always have something in my back pocket. All right. So shout out to leverage. Shout out to leverage. All right. Now let's get into our show. I am going to I'm going to put the link in the chat so that if you actually want to call in and have a conversation, ask a question, we can definitely do that. And I can either bring you up on screen or you don't have to be on screen, whatever you want. But we can have a conversation and we can go from there. Posting it to the chat now. All right. So feel free to hit the link if you have a question and you want to have a conversation with yours truly, Tech Coach Ralph. All right. Cool, cool, cool. So, but let's get into our questions. All right. So let's go to. All right. So the way that we do the questions, we are going to put 5 minutes up on the clock. And that is really, really big. Let's make that a little bit smaller. All right. And we are going to put our 5 minutes up. And I'm going to read the question and then start the timer, give an answer, and we can go from there. All right. And if anybody calls in after we answer the question, we will go to the call line. All right. So let's get started. Why don't we?
Another one.
So, is it normal to work without test management / reporting tools in a proper agile team? In my current and previous projects, we basically had this pretty standard workflow. unit test slash component test, part of the CI build. API to end-to-end test, also in CI, another pipeline. And just in case you don't know, CI is continuous integration. All right. And stories slash tasks are being manually tested within the sprint as they come up. But testing just happens based on the acceptance criteria. No test cases written out in detail, just a summary and the stories themselves. Any sort of regression test not covered by automation was simply documented in a wiki, as this was fairly limited. So I'm trying to explain to testers of our other teams they don't really need to use a test management tool. Why? There is no legal or other external reason to log results of test runs. With daily deploys for all kinds of microservices, the code is the truth, unlike my first project's waterfall, where a test manager would need progress on the quarterly software releases. Some people can be very long winded, I must add. But in case of a defect, the whole team is accountable and responsible to fix this, regardless of who would have tested it. Automated test results are automatically logged in the CI for a month or so. If new automated tests need to be written, you do it as part of the story so you don't need to trace to separate test cases. Automated tests are self documenting. After writing out tests and executing them, once the feature is live, in my experience, no one ever looks back at these tests and it consumes time to write them. Exception being very complex data heavy scenarios, but they are rare and documented separately. Am I missing some important reason why testers on such teams should use test plans, X ray, or any other test management tool? All right. So let's get to it. All right. So I I understand what this person is saying, right? And for the most part, it very similar to the process that I use in in on my team in my role. But but I do still have to mostly disagree with what they're saying, right? Um and why is that? So I will describe it I'll describe it in I have a couple of examples, right? I'll use my current role and I'll use a previous company that I worked for. Um, so in my current role, we do not have an official test case management tool, right? We use like Google Docs and stuff like that to document our tests, but we don't necessarily write like specific, like very detailed steps out, right? In our test plan we because we generally understand like we understand the project and the process, but we do write out the test plan on what we actually want to validate, and we store that like on a Google Drive, right? So, and as far as the unit test, component test, they are inside of the code base, and the developers manage that, right? The API and end-to-end test, they are in another pipeline. Okay. But now here's like here's the part that I disagree with. And about that, it's come back to bite me a few times, right? Well, it actually didn't bite me because I was prepared because I thought ahead. So what was the situation, right? Having my test cases documented and having the test run results, even when we didn't expect any type of legal thing, but when a legal thing did come up, we were able to provide the test cases and have the test runs, whether they were done manually or through automation, we had them logged, right? And that pretty much saved us a lot of money and a lot of headache, right? Because you never know what the future might hold, right? So that's one reason that I found it very beneficial. The other thing is I used the test cases that were in the test case management system for training purposes. When I would have to onboard a new QA, I could easily say, like, give them the basic instructions around, but I could also easily say, hey, go run these test cases so you can get familiar with the application that we're using. You can navigate through it. If you have any questions, let me know, all that stuff, right? And I found that also very helpful. Another thing is working with, like, now working with a company with a huge QA team where other teams might have to go into our domain, and maybe they're updating something or they need to run some tests on something that we might own, right? I'm able to direct them to and just the other day they were asking, like, hey, do you have any tests around this? And I was able to guide them to our test plan on things to look for, things to validate, what we validated in the past, all of that, right? So that came in also very useful, right? I am just a fan of having documentation of the of what we're working on. It holds us accountable. It shows that what we worked on, the whole, like, the idea. I agree with the premise of, if something is wrong, it's the whole team's responsibility. But I also like documentation so that we can know what, like, to go, like, if we have to go back and look at something, we can say, okay, this is what we did, this is what we missed, and we're able to do a debrief on it and things like that. Um, I know that it's always been very, very helpful to be able to have this documentation. And another thing that has helped me with, when we had a technical writer, because we're going to turn our service into a sellable product, I was able to provide the API documentation, the test cases to our technical writer in order to, so they could build the documentation for our software, right? So in many, many different cases, these have come to be a benefit to us. And as far as the automation, um, I try to automate as much as possible that we need to run on a regular basis. That's within reason. But what something that I because being that we use like a BDD, in Python we use behave, right? That documentation, the feature files, is our test cases, right? So I can easily say, hey, go check out this test case, go check out these feature files, and that'll be your test cases as well. So documentation in many different ways. But I like, maybe it's paranoid from things I've seen in the past, but documentation is absolutely essential to having successful product releases, to onboarding people, all of this good stuff. So if whatever the logging mechanism is, I don't think that, because here's the thing. You say there is no legal or external reasons to log results of test runs right now, right? Right now. But you never know what can come up. You never know. And when you don't have it and something comes up, now you're in trouble, right? So I'm always a fan of preparing in advance because you don't know what the future might hold. And here's the thing, you might have those sentiments now, but I've been the hero on multiple occasions by having documentation of our processes, of what we tested. We're able to provide to, create reports, print out test cases, print out test runs, all that stuff has worked to my benefit on multiple occasions. So I would like, I can't get on board with that thought because you don't know the liability and risk that you might be putting your company in, and you could end up saving them from tons and tons of trouble if, as a QA engineer, you also take into consideration all of those risk factors as well. I think you're avoiding the risk, and I think as QA engineers, we also have to be risk adverse, and prepare for things that we might not even expect to come. But preparation is the key. All right. So shout out to that question. All right. All right. All right. So we are going to get to question number 2. want to have a conversation, feel free to hit the link in the description or it is in the chat and you can call in and ask me any question that you might have. All right. But we will keep going for now. Okay. So let's get to our second question.
Another one.
This one says, feeling depressed and hopeless. I resigned a month ago without an offer letter in hand. Now I have 30 days left to get a job. I'm not getting any calls at all. I did a few email queries from some companies, but no update on that so far. I'm scared that I might become unemployed soon. I'm applying for around 20 to 25 jobs on LinkedIn and Naukri.com. I'm not getting any calls at all. It's killing my self-confidence. Well, I don't understand why people keep quitting their jobs without having a backup plan. Like those seem to be self-inflicted wounds. Like I think what people end up doing is like so they'll quit their job and then they will believe that because they have so much extra time on their hands and it'll put a fire under their butt so that they can go out there and find another job, right? But here's a problem, right? Other than having really crappy resumes that they don't show any value that you bring to your company, it just says it's just a task list of the things that you've done, right? Um, the fire that you have under your butt, it's not necessarily the fire that other companies have, right? And especially with the market saturation in everything now, because there's a boot camp for just about everything. There's boot camps for QA, there's boot camps for software engineering, there's boot camps for front end development, there's boot camps to learn how to use Linux, there's boot camps for cybersecurity, uh, there's boot camps for everything, right? You can take a 3 week boot camp now to learn how to weave baskets. Who knows, right? For basket weaving, you know? Um, and then they give you these resumes, right, that are terrible. They charge you an egregious amount of money for it. And then you use your terrible resumes to apply for jobs and you don't get anything. And then you're like, oh my God, why am I not getting any call back? Well, dinner property plan, and you also quit your job. Why did you quit your job without another job lined up? Doesn't make any sense to me, you know? So, what does that mean? Are you screwed? Quite possibly. And being that you resigned a month ago and that you have 30 days left to get a job, I am going to assume that you are in another country, probably India, because I heard that you have to give like 60 to 90 days notice when you quit a job. Yep. Um, and when when you when you guys quit these jobs, right? Are you doing any market research? Are you doing any planning ahead to see, oh, how is the market like? Is there an influx in hiring happening? Are there more people looking for jobs than there are jobs available? We just make like we just make these emotional decisions. Like I'm just gonna quit my job, hurt my livelihood. If you have a family, hurt my family. I'm not be able to pay my rent and all this type of stuff because we felt some type of way. We were unhappy, and we made decisions based on how we felt and not on the practical reality of where we needed to go. Right? Did you ask anybody before you quit your job, or did you? Did you ask somebody who would tell you what you wanted to hear, and say, "Oh, I'm not happy. They're doing this to me. They're treating me that way. All that stuff." Instead of using it as leverage, of embracing the challenge and using it as leverage, that you can have a story to tell. So when you do get that interview, right? Maybe you would join the Tech Coach Ralph Patreon and say, "Hey, coach, can you check out my resume for me? And I can give you some general feedback because all the resumes that I've gotten, um, they all had the same exact price. Probably a technical resume, you know, they all say the same thing. I said, hey, try to update your resume to this format, hit on these key points, right? And then start applying and see the difference that it makes." But no, maybe you felt some type of way. Maybe your boss hurt your feelings and you're like, you know what? You know what?
I hate it here. I want to go home.
And then, because you made an emotional decision, now you might not have any home to go to. Not the wisest thing to do, I must say. Not the wisest thing to do. So, where do we go from here? Well, maybe you can undo your resignation. Control Z it. Maybe you can control Z it because it's not a good idea to. It's just bad planning. All right. Um, it sucks that you're gonna become unemployed, but those are self-inflicted wounds, and because of the influx of people in the market, it's harder to because if when people would apply, right? If there would be like 50 applications, right? It's easier to go through those applications and those resumes. But now when there's like 600 people applying for a job, yours gets buried. There has to be something that makes yours stand out. So maybe you need to revise your resume. Join the Patreon. Ask me to review your resume. Ask for some feedback. All right? But until next time. All right, let's keep this party going. Let's keep this show going. All right. Now, we are on our next question, which I think we will always add one of these to this because not only am I your favorite tech coach, I can also be a little petty sometimes. I can admit that. I can always be a little petty sometimes. So let's get into the petty part.
Another one.
Finding a job after PhD is so hard. So post PhD. I finished my PhD 6 months ago and got married. I've been trying to get a job for 3 months with no luck. My experience doesn't count as experience. It's just very, very hard. My specialization is environmental engineering with a focus on bioremediation. My advisor is a good man, but lacks connections. And even if he had some, he would help my batchmate because my batchmate has more journal papers than me. A tinge of favoritism, but that's fine. My batchmate deserves it. Aw, I need one for all. Aw, that's so sweet. All right. So, where do we go from here? These PhD students, they spend a fortune on getting their PhD just to find out that there is no job or the job pays a quarter of what it costs them to get their PhD. So let's get this show on the road. All right. So, yeah. So I don't have a PhD. Nope. Not even a master's. Not even a master's. But what I do have is employment. Why is that? Because I look for what's popular, what is what pays, what's going to continually be needed, right? And not what makes me feel good. So I don't know. I probably said this a while ago, right? Um, what the way that I see it is, I don't go after what makes me feel good. The things that I do that add value and add benefit, I just make I make that make me feel good. I make that enjoyable, right? So for instance, when doing these shows, right? Being able to share with you different insight and knowledge that I've gained through the years and stuff like that. Um, I'm leveraging, keyword again,
Message.
I'm leveraging what my experiences for the past 15 to 20 years in order to share that with you, and I make it in a fun and enjoyable way. I hope that you guys are entertained, but I also hope that I'm adding value and insight into the tech industry for you, right? So that I can also help you get better, get more insight, get more knowledge into the field. That's why I spend the time to teach you about Docker. That's why I spend the time to go through Terraform with you. That's why I teach you about the page object model. That's why I teach you about Selenium. That's why we're going to be talking about Cypress this coming Thursday, so we can learn how to use it together. Maybe if you've used it before, Stephanie, maybe if you've used it before, you can give me some insight, you can guide me, you can direct me, you know? But the goal is growth while having fun, right? I don't hope that I can make a lot of money from what makes me happy. I say, what makes a lot of money? And now, right? Let me find happiness in doing that. And when the money comes in, that also makes me happy, right? So I've never, ever, ever cared about a degree, a certificate, all of that good stuff, right? I cared about being able to add value, to win, to succeed, all of that, right? So that's always been my goal. And and then here's the thing, right? Especially in these majors, in these degrees, these PhDs, right? Quite honestly, it's like the amount of people who do this stuff, it's so rare that if somebody's in that position, it's gonna be hard to get in. And then if you get into that position, it's probably not that much money, right? With a special focus in bioremediation, that sounds like a hobby for the most part, right? And how much how much did it how much did they make, right? How much do they make? Let's see real quick, right? So, environmental engineer. It says that they can make between 60K to 120K, according to Indeed, Glassdoor, 82K to 130K, talent.com, 64K to 150K, right? However, the problem is, how many of those jobs are available, right? How many of those jobs are available? Probably not that many. So you'll kind of be lucky that after, let me see, PhD cost. Mm, So it takes 4 to 5 years to get it to get your PhD. Let's see, tuition cost. About $11,000 per year from what I'm seeing on this one site. And if it's 5 years, so it's about $50,000 to get this PhD, which is on top, and that's if you go to an in-state college. And on top of that, that's on top of like your bachelor's and stuff like that, your undergrad, right? So it can be costing you about $100,000 to end up getting paid 60K to 100K per year. Not very worth it, in my opinion. But what do I know? I'm just a QA engineer that does not have a PhD or an ISTQB certification. Oh well. All right, let's get to our next one.
Another one.
I don't have a degree, and I'm currently doing CS50. What programs should I do afterwards to set up myself for success as a software engineer? And they go on. Hi, everyone. I'm 28 and I've floundered most of my 20s between different disciplines. I dropped out of chemical engineering in mid 2022 and dabbled across different learning goals. I want to self teach and become a polished software engineer. What programs can I pursue after completing my CS50, and what higher level programs should I follow up with? So, before we go on, let's figure out what the hell is CS50, right? So, what do? We just type in CS50, and CS50 is CS50. All right, let's go to our good friend Wikipedia. CS50 is an on campus and online introductory course on computer science taught at Harvard University and Yale University. In 2016, CS50 became available to high school students as an advanced placement computer science course. The on campus version is Harvard's largest class with 800 students, 102 staff, and up to 2,200 participants in their regular hackathon. The course material is available online for free on the EDX platform with a range of certificates available for a fee. As of 2022, this online version called CX50 CS50X teaches the languages C, Python, SQL, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It also teaches fundamental computer science concepts, including arrays, data structures, and the Flask web framework. The 2021 iteration of the course introduced 3 new additional lectures on computer security, artificial intelligence, and ethics. Ethics of technology, right? So that's what the CS50 is. Now, the question is, what programs can I pursue after completing my CS50, and what higher level programs should I follow up with? So, timer up, and my answer to that is start building stuff, right? People want to so focus on education, getting PhDs, taking these courses, um, getting these certificates, right? I like all I ever hear is, what certificate should I get here? What course should I take there? And it's like learning, 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 but no working, working, working. Come on, people. Let's get to work. We need to build stuff, right? Because when you have so much theory, right? You have all these stuff floating through your mind, but when it comes to the practical, like to practical knowledge and understanding, practical application, that's where we flounder. See, the same way you floundered between different disciplines in your 20s, right? We flounder because we want to spend so much time getting educated and not enough time applying our education. So build stuff, right? Build cool stuff. And build a portfolio, right? Use the knowledge that you're getting in like C or in Java, Python, JavaScript, whatever the case may be. Build some web applications, build some APIs, build stuff, right? Build stuff. That's the goal. And then put your code on GitHub, right? Submit it like open PRs to get reviews, get feedback on your code. That's how, like, feedback is what makes you get better. You need that feedback loop, right? What could you do better? What did you do good? Right? Build stuff, because going after these, like, I've seen so many people who, oh, I just passed the ISTQB, like the QA test, right? The foundations of QA. I'm a certified QA tester. Okay, how'd you test? I need you to go test this. Uh, and now there's all these risks, all these gaps that are left open, and we fail, right? Practical application. Some of the people, like, and that's why I structure the top level of the Patreon the way that I do, where you actually get to like, you actually work practically. I would rather you fail with me instead of failing out in the real world. I give you that controlled environment to fail so you can get actual experience, right? And then that way, when you fail with me, I can say, okay, this is where you messed up at. This is what you need to adjust. This is what you need to work on. This is how you're gonna get better, right? But when it's just like, oh, like, there's people who, they're not even finished with the current education that they have, but they're already planning for their next test or certification or degree and stuff like that. I'm like, slow it down. Let's apply this stuff. Let's look for opportunities to apply it. Let's get you some freelance projects, right? Look for freelance projects. Like, that would be the one of the first things that I would do. As I'm learning, I'm looking for freelance, right? So that I can actually apply this stuff. I can look for opportunities online. Like, oh, okay, so here's an example, right? There's this application, right? And I'm like, well, let me try to remake this application in my own way, you know? Um, Find a simple application, right? For instance, let's say let's say you go you like quotes or books, or maybe you build a book database for yourself, right? And now you make it work a particular way, the way, like, find something that you would like it to work in a particular way that'll be convenient to you, build it, and then you can show it. That's how Twitter got started, right? Twitter started as a basic application just so they can speak together, like they can for internal companies to speak together, right? A way of messaging, and then it became a big thing. That's how most things started. But that's how you build experience and understanding, and then you submit it, make it public. You submit it, you get feedback, or maybe you go and you find some developers who are more experienced, and you ask them for feedback. And they say, "Hey, can you do a code review for me?" And then you get their feedback, and then you adjust. But chasing after the theory is not going to get you to where you actually need to be. You need practical application. All right? And that, I believe, is the biggest problem with most people who are trying to get into the field. They they want theoretical knowledge, but they don't go after the practical application. And that's why they continue to lose. That's why we lose. Because we don't go after the practical application. All right. So that would be so even before you finish your CS50, right? Before you even finish your CS50, start looking for freelance opportunities for whatever software engineering stuff that you're doing. Start applying for jobs. Start thinking of ways to build your portfolio. Build cool stuff. Start getting involved with the AWS architecture so that you can work on deploying your software, deploying your code, make mistakes, get like have stuff fail to compile and fix it, write unit tests, try driven development, manage your software, find out how you would be working in an actual company and apply it that way. Let's get some practical application. Let's move away from just wanting to chase after courses and degrees and stuff like that and certifications, and let's get some practical application. All right. So that is the plan. All right, we're gonna move on to the next one. All right.
Another one.
Poor choices in life. I am 29 years old, and it's incredible how much time I've wasted following celebrities on the internet and binge watching TV shows. I mean, think about it. All those hours scrolling through their perfect lives, the endless photos of luxury vacations and designer outfits. And don't even get me started on the TV shows. Hours upon hours lost to fictional dramas and sitcoms that, in the grand scheme of things, don't really matter.
Message.
What makes it even worse is that I also got a useless degree that didn't equip me with any real life practical skills. Meanwhile, there are so many real life experiences I could have had, skills I could have learned, and goals I could have achieved. But here I am, lamenting the time I'll never get back. And as a bonus,
Message.
I wanted to include what I consider to be a
Stupid.
comment on that post, right? It says, don't beat yourself up too much. It's easy to fall in the trap of chasing the unattainable perfection of celebrities, and TVs are literally built to be addictive. Also, a useless degree doesn't define your worth or potential. Think about all the people who never had the chance to go to college but still have gone on to do amazing things. The past is the past and you can't change it, but you can decide what you do moving forward. So why did I call this a stupid comment, right? Because if you tuned into the candid conversation from Monday, talking about you should be hard on yourself, you should beat yourself up when you do stupid things, right? And why should you beat yourself up? Because you need that pressure, you need that pain, you need the suffering so that you don't do stupid things anymore. I think the reason that we continuously do stupid things is because we are not hard on ourselves enough. We have to be harder on ourselves so we can get into that winning mindset. I hate, I despise, it really makes me, it boils my blood when I lose. And I know that it's my fault that I lost. I could have done something differently, but because I wasn't properly prepared, I lost and I suck because of it, right? So I totally believe in being hard on myself. Is it bad? Maybe you might think so, but no. It When I'm hard on myself, I fail so much more forward because I put in a additional level of effort so that I can be more successful than I was, right? So that's why I say that you should be hard on yourself, right? Now, let's go back to let's go through this a little bit, right? So I know I wasted plenty of time binge watching TV shows in the past as well, but guess what? I was also working. I think I could have got a lot more done if I wasn't wasting my time watching those shows. But trust me, like I would be up to very late working and developing stuff, trying to figure stuff out. You know, gaining so much different knowledge. Like I'll tell you this: one of the reasons that I am so amazing with CSS and locators and all that type of stuff is because back in like 08 ish, oh, around the time of MySpace, believe it or not, MySpace, when you could create these custom layouts, right? We like me and my buddy, we were creating these amazing MySpace layouts for musicians and models and stuff like that. And it was all based on like we'd create a background image, and then we'd have to use CSS and Z indexes to place like the way that things would look and the links and all that. Cool. It was really really cool, right? But speaking of leverage, right? I was able to leverage that information to be able to do good websites, right? Have clean code, and then when I went into QA and into automation, be an expert in locators for CSS selectors, for XPath, all that good stuff, right? And that's because I would like I took every opportunity, right? And so I understand like I wish we would make smarter decisions in our 20s so we can leverage all of that energy that we have and not waste the time. But you're going to waste some time at some point, right? But maybe if you check out the time cost calculator, you will waste less time potentially, right? But but here's the thing. We look to celebrities and people on TV and we make really really bad decisions when when you could be following the Tech Coach Ralph YouTube channel, right? And find out different strategies, different ideas so that you can have a long lasting career and not try to make, not be lazy, not try to make quick money, all that useless stuff, right? So, with that being said, when we look a little bit more forward and it says that you could have achieved great stuff, yes you could have, and now you're here lamenting, well, what are you going to do about it now, right? So that's one thing I agree with this stupid comment is, what are you going to do about it now? But I do think you should beat yourself up, right? And in beating yourself up, um oh yeah, let's not forget about the useless degree. um it's I believe the useless degree is a cause of two things, right? Bad parenting and acting off of our feelings and our emotions, which is probably also part of bad parenting, right? So, um, I think that that's one of the ways that our parents failed us in not properly guiding our like trying to be trying to give us quote unquote freedom to choose what we want when we don't know anything. How can we choose what we want when we don't know anything? Right? I was actually listening to Patrick Bet David interviewing Khabib. I'm not even gonna try to say his last name, right? But the MMA person, that 29-0, undefeated, right? Destroyed Conor McGregor, made him tap, right? But he said that where he grew up, within his family, there wasn't any freedom to do whatever you wanted to do, right? That strict discipline, right? And look at all of his achievements, right? Look at his demeanor. I appreciate that, you know? And I just think that we need to be stricter. We need to make better decisions. We need to plan better because that is how we will continue to that's the reason that we continue to fail, right? When we don't make these we don't have good plans in place. And then we end up wasting our 20s watching TV shows and idolizing celebrities who don't give two craps, not even two craps about us or our lives. They just want to take our money and they just give us the worst advice. All right. So and then we get these comments about, oh, don't beat yourself up. No, beat yourself up, get better, do something about it, right? We can blame the TVs, we can blame the celebrities, all of that good stuff. But at the end of the day, we are looking at ourselves in the mirror, and we need to make a change, right? We need to make a change. We need to go get some skills that will benefit us. And here's the thing that annoys me, right? When you say that, they said so in the comments says also a useless degree doesn't define your worth or potential. No, but it does define your debt, right? It defines your debt. The useless degree defines your debt because now you have to go and beg for student loan forgiveness, right? And then they turn you down, and now you are left with your hand out, and you're like, what am I going to do? So now you need to go learn something that's going to add value into society and something that's going to pay you very well. All right. And go do amazing things. I agree with that. There are plenty of people who never went to college, never had a chance to go to college, probably to their benefit, and they still have gone to do amazing things. The only difference is by them not having the chance to go to college, they also didn't have the chance to accumulate a lot of debt. Right. So I agree. The part I agree with the comment is the past is the past. You can't change it, but you can decide what you're going to do moving forward. So the question is, what are you going to do moving forward? All right. Oh, welcome to the chat. Just found me today. Thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate you, Sarah. A little bigger. How are you doing tonight? Happy to have you here. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. All right. All right. Let's go to our next one. Frank.
Another one.
How to implement a code coverage tool for testing behavior-driven development / Gherkin test. I'm a fairly new test automation developer and need a bit of advice in terms of how to implement this, or is it even possible? Basically, we have a .NET web application and all our tests are written in Gherkin's syntax using Python. I want to measure what percentage of the code is covered by our Gherkin's tests. Our tests are automated and run nightly, but against different instances of the same code base. For example, we have, let's say, 4 environments that get deployed with the application. 25% of the tests are run against one environment, another 25% against another environment, etc. I'm looking into using ncover or dot cover, but a bit confused about on how that would go. All right. So let's put up our 5 minutes and then we shall figure this out. Okay, so I think that you are a bit mistaken on code coverage. So code coverage is primarily meant to be covering like unit test scenarios, not for automation, like for end to end or feature automation. Um, so if you are actually like writing the unit test, then that would work. You can technically use BDD for like unit tests and stuff like that. Not necessarily the most recommended one for the most part. There's like if it's being written in if the code is being written in .NET, you could probably use like NUnit or something like that. But the code coverage tool is supposed to be for like unit tests, right? And you want to get and the unit test should be the one that you have the most coverage on, right? The BDD test, the Gherkin test, if you're using Gherkin syntax in Python, then I'm going to be assuming that you're using behave because that's what I use. Our test is like pretty much our code base is pretty much in C#, and we and our automation framework is in Python. So and we use Gherkin, so we use behave. But the thing is, I think you're misunderstanding the code coverage, right? What I would do, like what I've normally done, is the coverage percentage of our test cases. How much automation do we have of our test cases? And then the code coverage part is how much unit test coverage do the developers have for their code, right? So that's why it's the question is a little bit off, right? Because the way that code coverage tools work is so right.
Message.
If you're not familiar with this, right, the way that code coverage tools work is it takes it analyzes your code base and it looks for how many of the unit tests are hitting the different paths of the code base, right? So let's say you have an if statement, and in the if statement you have like 5 different conditions. So if this, then do this. If that, then do that. And like let's say you have 5 different, right? But your unit test only hits 2 of those scenarios, right? So then it would say that your code coverage would be 40%, right? So there's a 60% that is missing, and then you need to add unit tests to cover that other 60%. And let's say there's a whole function that doesn't have a unit test that's not being covered, right? Then it's going to that's how the code coverage works. It's based on the unit tests that are that are hitting the different code paths, right? It's not based on your automated regression tests because it doesn't cover that. Simply put, it doesn't cover that, right? And that's why the code coverage tool that you're referring to wouldn't work. What I've done in the past, right? I use a tool called I should probably be getting sponsorship for this, right? Or some type of benefit. But I used it was called from the company called Inflectra, called Spirotest. It was a test case management tool, and we would have all of our test cases logged in there, and then we would have our automated test linked to there, so that once the automated test would run and it would whether pass or fail, it would update it would create a new test run and say what was the status of the test run, right? Whether it passed or failed, it would log in there, the date, time, everything, right? The steps that it took, where it failed at, all that, right? And it would show what is the automation coverage percentage of the test cases. So let's say we have 100 test cases, but we have like 70 of them automated, then it would say that there's a 70% of automated coverage of the test cases, right? So that's why you're a little off. And it's totally understandable being a fairly new test automation developer, right? And I think that you're just misunderstanding the concept of code coverage tools, especially like when you're trying to figure it out for the end cover, dot cover, all of that. That is supposed to be what the software engineers are supposed to implement because they are supposed to be writing unit tests and they should be testing their code coverage. And I mean, like you can implement code coverage as well, but it's not you who is necessarily going to be responsible for those unit tests being written. I mean, you could participate in that. I think like I would love to participate in writing unit tests as well. But the key point of the matter is the test that you're writing. I do not think they're going to fall under the code coverage tool that you're looking for. I would say though, check out like a report portal that can log your test runs and everything like that, and they can check like the when the tests fail, identifying why it failed, classifying them. It has some AI technology, some machine learning technology to be able to determine if a test is flaky and stuff like that. So I think that'll be a good use. But for your main question of implementing a code coverage tool, I think you should implement it, but I don't think it's going to be checking for what you're working on. All right. So shout out to that question. Very, very good question. All right. Sarah says she's here from Anton's Discord. Shout out to the bag chasers. Shout out to those in the Discord. You guys are very, very good. So much learning going on in there, and you know what, and that's the beauty of collaboration and building. Like the whole welcome to cybersecurity panel that we put together this past weekend came from collaboration in Discord from like I can't even say how, like, I can't even count how many people would come and say, "Oh, I want to get into cybersecurity. What is cybersecurity, and what do I need to do to get into it?" Right. So we put this panel together, and we were able, like, we had we had three experts and myself on the panel, giving insight on cybersecurity, on the tech industry, on different things, right? Like I said, I am not in cybersecurity, but I know some stuff about it. But I know tech, and I know software engineering. I've done the compliance training, I've done HIPAA training, all of that good stuff. So I could help moderate, I can help navigate, I can help give insight from a QA perspective and all of that. So that's the beauty of collaboration, right? So shout out to the bag chasers, amazing group of people. Shout out to one of my favorite people, Natasha, for just keeping everything running in there and always a resource to go to, always willing to help, always being so amazing. All right. And shout out to Sarah for being here. So happy to have you here, and looking forward to talking with you as well. All right. So let's keep going because I got a meeting at 9:35 that I got to get to, and we have a few more questions to go for tonight. So let's keep going. And if you have any questions, Sarah, feel free to drop them in the chat, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have, or reach out to me directly on the Discord and we can talk some more. All right. And it is my pleasure to be able to do that. It is, and I love it. It's fun. I am the most outgoing introvert that you will ever meet. All right. So let's get to our next question so we can keep the show moving. But if anybody wants to call in and have a discussion, the link is in the chat. Let me post it again one more time in the chat. If anybody wants to call in, we can definitely do that. And we can have a quick conversation, 5 minutes before we move on. Let's post that right there. All right. If you call in, you don't have to be on screen, but we can have a quick conversation and I can answer any question that you may have. All right. So let's keep the show on the road.
Another one.
Looking for free sources to learn API testing. Hey guys, I'm currently working as a manual tester for a while, and I got an interview opportunity coming ahead to work as an end-to-end tester in an e-finance team in a corporation. I knew from people in that team that they focus on API testing for the functions in the system. They use Postman and SOAP UI, not Soup UI, right? No soup for you, right? I need recommendations for resources or courses I can learn this tool and get to know API testing from something. All right, so API testing. 5 minutes up and let's go. All right. Sources like free sources. Are there free sources to learn API testing? Yes, of course, there's free sources. But man, some people go to extreme, right? Like, oh, I want to learn API testing. I'm gonna go sign up for a bootcamp. I'm gonna pay $20,000 to learn how to test APIs, or I want it to be totally free, no risk, no effort, blah blah. How about a happy medium? How about we get a Udemy course on sale for like $20 and we actually do a little bit of investment into ourselves, I think when we invest a little bit, it might mean a little bit more to us, but then there's also people who might pay the $20,000 and then they don't actually follow through. There has to be some type of happy medium, right? But that is not the point of this question, right? So I'm just gonna go with resources to learn API testing. So like I said, I would do a Udemy search for API testing, right? And take that course. Like I wouldn't focus too much on SOAP UI as much as I would focus on REST. Like the REST one, with like learning how the JSON structure works and all that stuff. That part is the important part, right? Um, SOAP is not used as much, right? With the XML and the envelopes and all that. Like I know about it, but I don't even know when the last time I used SOAP for testing anything. It's a more older method, right? But what so this is what I do, and this is what I've suggested to someone in the past, right? So learn the basics of API testing. Find out what an API is. Find out when it's like how it's tested, what it's used for, all of that, right? Then using Postman, find some public APIs that you can use to do some queries, right? Something that I've also suggested is set up a like get Docker, find a walkthrough to set up like some API locally that you can test on your computer, right? And then go to a site like what is the name of that website? Rapid API. Sign up for an account and find an API that you like. Whether it's maybe you're into sports, right? Get a sports API and query the like let's say you like basketball, right? Pull up basketball stats, pull up basketball scores, like just play around with these APIs, right? And then take a course, right? Go on Udemy and find a course on how to test APIs and apply those testing principles to those APIs that you got from Rapid API, that you got from wherever, right? Like whether it's a weather API, a finance API, a quotes API, a sports API, whatever the case may be. Get an API, do some testing on it. and get familiar with it. All right. Now, after you do that and you get familiar with it and you're not necessarily confident, right? The next step I would say is do a follow a little course where you can actually implement your own API. Because not only like here's the thing, what I'm realizing is although it is although well that's annoying. Although it's important that like to be able to test it, I think the best way you can get familiar with testing it is understanding, right? Understanding how it works. And that's by like that's by putting one together. You can follow a guide so you can put it together so you can say, "Oh, okay. These are the components that it takes." The same way like I think you'll become the best web tester, right? The best like web application tester like through React and stuff by learning those technologies. And when you learn those technologies, you can also see like as a tester you'll see why they don't work in a particular way, right? Lastly, and this is the most important part to becoming familiar with testing APIs, right? I showed it to you last week. You are like you should go to get the Chaos Camp repository for the rock, paper, scissors API test. You saw Stephanie's implementation last week, right? Get the rock, paper, scissors API challenge and do it, right? Challenge yourself, level up, right? Challenge yourself by implementing the rock, paper, scissors and submit it, you know, open up a PR, ask for feedback. And then I can give you some feedback. I can pull it up on the stream like we did last week and go through your code and say, oh, you know, open up PR, give some comments, right? If you just open up a PR and then you submit it to Chaos Camp, at Chaos Camp we can go through it and give feedback and we can check it and you know let you know how it went, right? But you actually have to challenge yourself. So many things you can do to learn it, but you got to put in the time. Nothing is going to be given to you. Everything is earned. Nothing is given. All right. All right. Let's get to another one. I'm just gonna say, right? I know you've seen the banner scrolling around, but if you haven't done so yet, right? If you're new to the channel, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you can know every time that we go live, so you can get this amazing content, and you can join us when we do our software explorations. You can actually see the code. Maybe you don't follow. Maybe it's all foreign to you, right? I'll tell you this: I've had so many people who said, you know, when you first started, I had absolutely no idea what you were talking about, but now I still have no idea what you're talking about, but it's making a little bit more sense. And that's the goal. As you follow along, it's like learning a language, right? If you are in a foreign country for long enough, right? And you don't know the language, just by like finding a way to communicate to the people and hearing it over and over and over again, you're gonna pick up on the language, and you're not gonna be the best at it, but you'll be able to communicate, and that's the goal, right? You know, how many people like they watch like the Spanish novellas, right? The Spanish what do you call them? Soap operas, right? And then they just become like they just pick up on the language because they just watch it enough and they understand what's going on. So that's the point, right? Invest in yourself. Follow along. You know, do what you can. Ask questions. I've been getting some amazing comments this week, right, on some of my videos, and I'm going to respond to every single last one of those comments because that's how you get better. You know that you have a connection and that you can level up. All right. So shout out to that. All right. So let's get to our next question.
Another one.
Coworkers had meeting without me. So the background of the story is team comprises of 4 members. All right, this person is a jerk for putting these names, but since you put it, I'm gonna share it. All right, Betty, Sandra, Catherine, and myself. The supervisor's name is Jessica. We had a scheduled team meeting today. The supervisor's on vacation. We have a meeting once a month without her anyways. Catherine is out sick. Oh, poor Catherine. Oh, that was not the one I wanted. That is so insensitive. That is not the one that I wanted to play. I wanted to play this one. Sandra and Betty are really, really close. Betty has been here for 20 years and Sandra for 15. No wonder they're so close. So Sandra emailed me and said the meeting was canceled today. Then I found out that they decided to have the team meeting in Betty's office and not include me. I am pissed. I'm sending a calendar invite to my supervisor to set up a one-on-one meeting to address my concerns. Is this a bad idea? I don't want to stir the pot. I actually like working here so far. I've only been here for three months, and it's hard to find a job. And it was hard to find this job due to my tendency to job hop. I don't want to cause trouble, but I'm not a doormat either. Oh, and then we have some more information. I neglected to mention this. We all have the same job title and perform the same/similar tasks. Our work is very interconnected and it affects the whole entire team. If the meeting was important enough to have, then I should have been included. Well. Let's put our time up. So it's funny, right? So this person, let's get into the drama of it, right? Since we were talking about those Spanish novellas, we might as well get into it, right? So Sandra and Betty are really close, and that means that Betty has been at that company for 20 years and Sandra has been there for 15 years. So they've known each other for at least 15 years, right? So Sandra tells whatever your name is that the meeting was canceled, but then Betty and Sandra get like they meet together, because they've been friends for 15 years to talk and chat, and they had a meeting on the calendar and it wasn't going to happen, so they just said, hey, let's talk and let's chat and whatever, and they didn't include you into their private conversation, right? You were not invited because they don't know you. You've only been there for 3 months, right? And they just maybe they wanted to catch up on, how their kids are doing, on how their husbands are doing. Maybe they wanted to make plans for the weekend. Who knows? But guess what? Those plans didn't involve you. And guess what? Now that as soon as you're not invited to a meeting, and you know what? When I get canceled meetings, I'm like, oh yes, I get some time back to do some other stuff that I need to do. I'm not like, oh my God, I wasn't included into a meeting. I'm like, if there's something important for me, then they'll let me know. I'm not going to, like, you said the team had a meeting without you, right? There's 5 people in the team, including the supervisor. And 2 friends ended up meeting with one another. And you're like, oh my God, I wasn't invited. Okay, well, maybe your attitude that you set a calendar invite to your boss right away to address your concerns, right? Maybe that's why you weren't invited, because maybe, quite frankly, maybe you just might be an asshole. Maybe you're an asshole, and they didn't want to be around you because as soon as you're not invited to happy hour, you're sending an invite to your supervisor to address your concerns. Is it a bad idea? Absolutely. Why is it a bad idea? Because you've been there for 3 months and you are already trying to get people who have been there for 20 years and 15 years. They have a combined 35 years of experience at the company, and your 3 months, you're trying to get people in trouble. And then here's the funny thing, right? You have absolutely no credibility because let's say you go in there, you cause all this trouble, and then you're like, oh, I'm gonna leave on the 4th month, right? Because you have a tendency to job hop. But guess what? You're not a doormat. Nope, you're just a doorknob. Right? That is absolutely frustrating. Like, it's just annoying. Like, oh my God. And you you neglected to mention the stuff that don't mean anything, right? We have the same job title and perform the same task, same or similar task. Well, guess what? Although you perform the same or similar task, they have 35 years of experience on you combined, right? So they might need to strategize for something that maybe you're just not ready to know yet. Maybe this is something that you'd like if you didn't job hop on the 6th month, right? Who knows that maybe on the 3rd year of being there, you might be able to add value to. But as of right now, it really doesn't concern you because they don't even know if you're going to be there for that long, right? You have no credibility. They can't trust you yet. And maybe that's why you weren't invited to their one-on-one meeting. But guess what? Guess what's going on right now? You just set up a one-on-one with your boss, with your supervisor, to talk about Betty and Sandra, right? So now, who's really excluding people from meetings? Right? You are. You're excluding people from meetings because now it's when Sandra and Betty were getting together to talk about their plans for the weekend and talk about their kids and their what fun stuff that they're going to do, and you got mad that you weren't involved. Now you're going to talk about them behind their back to your supervisor. If it was that big of a deal, right, and you don't want to stir the pot, why don't you just invite the whole team and say, and then you can say,
I hate it here. I want to go home.
If you're unhappy, right, then put it out in the open. Why do you got to talk to your supervisor behind their back? And what is your supervisor going to do? Go against the people who have 35 years of experience? When who knows how long you're going to act? How long you're going to be there? Absolutely frustrating. Nope. And these are the type of people, right? And this is why, because I see this a lot, right? Oh, what I see it on LinkedIn, right? It's so stupid. They're like, oh, why does interviews have to be so many steps and so many processes? And oh, there's like 3-4 levels of the interview, and there's a technical project and all this type of stuff. Well, the reason is that we try to mine out the people who are going to be a problem, right? There's so much more to an interview than just the what's the word I'm looking for? Then can you do the job, right? It's what type of person are you? What type of attitude do you have? Are you easy to get along with? What some of the things that the people say in the interviews really expose who they are, and then that's why they don't end up moving forward in the process. Right? You might have the skills to do it, but you don't have the attitude to do it. And attitude is just as important, if not sometimes more important than the actual skills, because you might not have all the skills, but the skills can be learned. But you might be a jerk, and no one really wants to work with a jerk. All right? So go ahead and stir the pot, but I'm pretty sure that they're going to 99 times out of 100 actually, they're going to choose the people who've been there for 20 and 15 years, who have a combined total of 35 years of experience, who have kept the company going for that long over the 3-month job hopping pot stir who refuses
Another one.
that's the wrong one, who refuses to be a doormat. All right. So shout out to all those who refuse to be a doormat and end up annoying and unemployed. All right, let's get into our last question of the night before we wrap up, because I have a meeting in 15 minutes. All right, so let's do it.
Another one.
Managing regression test cases. How do you store and update them? Says, I'm seeking insight on best practices for managing regression test cases, particularly when new user stories come along that impact existing regression scenarios. Test case management tools. What tools are you utilizing for storing and managing regression test cases? How do these tools help with updating test cases when a new user story is introduced? For example, impact analysis. Updating process. How do you ensure your regression test suite remains in sync with the evolving feature set? I'd love to streamline the process. It's super manual and time consuming. I appreciate any insight or experiences you can share. Thanks a bunch. All right. So let's put our 5 minutes up because we have got to go in a little bit. So to answer your question, so in the past, I've used the test case management system. As I mentioned before, we use Inflectra in order to manage all of our test cases, our test runs, and then, reporting defects and all that good stuff, right? But currently, our test cases, our features are, because we use Behave in Python, which is like the BDD tool set for it, framework for it. Like when we need to make changes, we will so we write our test plans, right? What we're going to, the things that we need to test and things we need to focus on. But the details of how the test is being executed is inside of our testing suite, our automation test, right? So we will go in there and we'll make the necessary changes to the feature files, or add additional features if we need to, and then we'll do the changes inside of our inside the functions that power our test. Let's see. So that's how we handle them. Best practice for managing regression tests. As the tests change based on the new features that you're implementing, then that's when you update your test, your regression test, right? Pretty simple. What I normally do is I run the regression test, and if something fails, find out what fails and see, is it failing because of a change? Like, is it a valid failure because of a change that we made, or is it failing because something is not working? That's a determinant. That's the determination that we need to make on why is it failing, and do we need to update our test, or do we need to file a bug or a defect to get that resolved, right? So that is that's how we decide on what to update, right? We said when new user stories come along that impact existing regression tests, you just need to update them. That's simple as that. And you got to figure out what's the cause of failure, right? I love to see failures in that scenario, because we need to see, okay, is it a valid failure, or is it an update that we need to make, or is it a bug that's happening, right? What tools are you using for storing and managing regression tests? So currently it's all in the code base using Behave, using feature files written in the Gherkins format. And here's the cool thing I just thought about it, right? Using the Gherkins format, right? You should be able to easily take those feature files, and if you needed to go to a different language, take the feature files, put them in a new language, and you would be able to write the functions for that, right? Or you could easily take those feature files and give them to anybody. You can give them to another QA to have understanding of the system. You can give them to a business analyst as documentation. You can give them to the technical writer as documentation. You can share it with stakeholders to know how the application is working, how it's being tested, all that, right? So many things you can do with the feature files. So I would say the tools that you're using, like in this case, we're using our automation framework via Behave for Python, but you could be using Cucumber in Java, whatever the one there is for C Sharp, whatever the case may be, right? How do you ensure your regression test suite remains in sync with the evolving feature set? You just have to like new features that should be tested on a regular basis. You just have to add those over again, right? It's not that hard to do. Let's see here. So yeah, you need to add the new features. Simple as that. To like, it's just part of QA. You decide like, okay, this should be part of our regression suite. This should be running on a daily basis. This should be running on a weekly basis. This should be running hourly. Who knows, right? And you add those regression tests to the regression feature set based on the timing. Simple as that. Nothing too serious, to be honest with you. But yeah, like update them as necessary. All right. And new tests that should be tested on a regular basis. It's as a QA engineer, right? It's not that you can figure out like what needs to be automated or how to automate it. It's the strategy, right? What I've seen working with my tech barbarians, the top level people in the Patreon, is the thing you gain most from experience is the strategy of approaching situations, right? Anyone can know how to actually like code, write automated tests, but now the strategy for making it efficient, how long it takes you to navigate and maneuver through different scenarios, that is the difference that happens. All right. And that's the experience. And that's what you get with experience. You get a better strategy because you've seen more, you know? And like if a quick example, when you look at like the NBA, right? Players that have been in there for a long time. When you look at the Steph Currys, the late Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, right? LeBron James. And when they first would come into the league, they were like going super fast and they would they didn't have the right strategy, the right mindset. Like they could perform, but they could not be as successful as they are today because in time, and you see like when they get into their 30s, right? That's when they're like really hitting their stride because now they have the skill plus the strategy to be successful because their mind slows down. They can see things much, much clearer, right? So that is the key for like as a QA engineer, as a software engineer, as a data engineer, as a cybersecurity engineer, whatever the case may be. As you gain experience, you gain strategy. All right. So, on that note, that is our last question. And that's it. So, if you had a great time tonight, please do me a favor, hit the like button, share the video with somebody who you think will find it useful as well. And if you haven't done so yet, I don't know what you're waiting for, but hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you can know that every time that we go live, and check out the Patreon while you're at it. See all of the amazing information that we have in there. And I just found out over the weekend that Patreon added a feature where you can follow me on Patreon. You don't even have to become a paid member yet. And because of that, I might actually be releasing some content, not too much, but some content on Patreon only that will be available to anyone who follows the Tech Coach Ralph channel on Patreon. But you have to be a member, even if you're not a paid member yet. And I'm pretty sure once you get in there and you see what's in there, you will become a paid member because I am looking to add more and more value into your life to help you level up your technical skills and your technical career. But, the time has come for us to get out of here. So, we are out.
You might think that getting into the IT field is impossible without a computer science degree, but Tech Coach Ralph is here to prove you wrong. Get ready for some jaw-dropping revelations on how to break into this lucrative industry. Listen up, tech enthusiasts! Are you ready to break through into the IT field, but feel like you need a computer science degree to make it happen? Think again! Tech Coach Ralph has some exclusive, mind-blowing secrets to share with you. Get ready to be blown away by his jaw-dropping revelations on how to break into the tech industry without a computer science degree. So get your notepad ready, because Tech Coach Ralph is going to change your life forever. Buckle up, because you're about to embark on a journey to success in the IT field.
Hear me, warriors of the North. Today we have tasted the sweet nectar of victory. Our foes indeed defeated, and their lands are now bow before us. The gods themselves have favored our glorious deeds on this glorious day. We have shed blood, sweat, and tears to claim this land. Our relentless spirit, our unyielding determination. These are the very essence of our people. It's been our ancestors rejoice in the halls of Valhalla. For today, we have added to their eternal glory. Our victories will echo throughout the ages, and our names will be etched in the annals of history. But let us not forget the present pain the brothers and sisters we lost. They now feast in the hall of our forefathers, watching over us with pride. Their sacrifice has paved the way for this moment of triumph. As we celebrate this conquest, let us also remember that our journey is far from over. More land awaits our conquest, more battles call us forth, and the fire in our hearts burn ever brighter, for there is no limit to what we can achieve. To those who dare stand against us, let them tremble in fear, for they shall witness the fury of the northern storm, the wrath of the untamed barbarians. Today we celebrate our victory. Tomorrow, we set our sights on new horizons, a charted land where our banners will fly high. We are Vikings, we're barbarians, we are masters of conquest.